to my new video. In this video, I'll talk about my universe, the story that I'm writing, which I entitle it Asrain. Asrain is also the name of the guild, which will be the main focus of the story, and so in this video, I wanted to talk about it more. I did this video because I've been now talking about this story for like a few years, but a lot of the information are a bit scattered everywhere, so I thought it was interesting to have them existing on one main location. First of all, about the guild, maybe. I wanted the guild to be kind of those institutions that you could kind of see it appear on Konosuba, where it's like those institutions who handle quest to adventurer. Like they choose the quest, they rank the quest, and they kind of advertise their guild for adventurer to then be recruited in the guild, be part of the guild, and then among the guild they can have like their own little crew, little group who they often do their quest to. They also can have rank about how they manage to do the quest, and so they are able to like access to stronger quest. Though that would be kind of more those kind of guild, and not the guild where there would more be like a high school club where you create your own guild with your own little member and have your own little adventures. I wanted it to be more in a higher kind of organization, and I also want the focus to be on the manager. So Asrain, it's an adventurer guild, the main one of the story. For instance, the guild Asrain is a group who asked a mayor directing the area to form an adventurer guild in the famous impenetrable dungeon Elheim Catacombs. Miss Bess would be positioned each day at the counter, recruiting and evaluating new adventurers, while discovering with them the lore of the world through numerous events. She was occupying the counter and sometimes left for expedition with the other adventurers to explore the world. It was a free spirit guild with later won the goal to discover the secrets of death and bring peace once again. The ambient energy around the office would gather noble adventurers breathing the air of a true fantasy guild, and with a lot of effort, Asrain would become the best legend we could tell. While this is my goal to do that, this story has also been an idea of mine for more than 10 years now, so a lot of the characters that I have who is among the guild, I don't know yet for all of them what's their role in the guild. Like, would they be part of the organization? Would they be maybe like support, like by example some merchant who often trade and often propose some deals and all? Or would they be some adventurer who have been recruited? Because I really don't know how it would work, how the sustaining of the island and of the adventurer, and how could they be found, because as it's been written, the adventurer guild is not in a floated town. On the contrary, it's on a deserted island, which I said the word phantasma. Phantasma is a word that I'm using for a kind of a species which is a bit particular, which I could tell in another video, but think of it for now just as an island. It's just an island which you could also tell phantasma. And so they are situated on a deserted island near a town which is called Anthelkrim, whom they asked the mayor, whom I talk about at the first of this document. So the main character of my story is called Miss Bess. So Miss Bess is a little snake character who had this idea at the beginning of the story that she wanted to create a guild. For now, there is 25 known members or character among the guild. And let me try to talk about her without spoiling. So like I said, it's a little snail, and usually the snail species are more tend to be slow life. They don't really want to have like a big adventure, or like they just want to chill, you know. But this little snail does not want to. She dreams big, and says she wanted to have this guild situation, during the story we'll have a little bit of their adventures about how to create a guild and how to organize and manage it, and then search for quest and higher quest, and how to settle the rank, and how to advertise and recruit for adventurer. I think I have a document about the encounter. So just before the story starts, we saw a quick and oppressed run of Siegfried, who just managed to escape himself from the nightmare he was enduring. Like, imagine kind of like escaping like an oppressing and enslaving situation. And so while he was running away, he found himself in front of End. It is short but oppressing enough to understand that End is kind of like a bad guy looking from his perspective. Like, for a quick explanation, there is two universes, which I'll talk about more in another video. I think my next video will be about the different town and location and universe. But to quickly explain, because there is clearly like two big clans. There is the first universe, Ted, and the second one, Niflheim. And the citizens from the first world are called Seals, while the other one are called Nears. And as he just ran away from being oppressed by this country, he just assumed that she was also a bad guy. Since Siegfried was a victim, was trying to protect himself, he was on edge and just didn't know what will happen. But just right at this moment, she meets Bess. Like, there is a portal opening, operated from like a location where no one is supposed to like ever exist. It's just like a void, and then like a little snail just emerged, and she kind of like seemed like she had cried, and she approached them, started smiling and say, hey, let's form a guild. Well, she doesn't know them. She like can clearly see that both of the characters are from opposite clan, I'll say. Opposite clan, like they are enemy. But she like, I don't care, let's form a guild. And face showed that she was deep in thoughts about this absurd question. Everything was there to refuse. A young girl with red clothes coming out of a bridge where nothing is supposed to remain alive, destroyed for eternity, just came, interrupting the moment to ask a Near and a Thiel to form a guild during a war against each other. And a smile, like to just acquire a new toy, a new motivation to this boring century, before taking the right risk of their guildmaster to put her back on her feet. While for Siegfried, encountering Hand, he put himself on guard to fight against them, determined to not be captured as a slave like those who's been sold out by the army. And had traveled onto Andalcrim without an ending life in order to fill their gloom. One of the first Seals who'd been trying to kill them. Also, their side, seeing Siegfried like trying to engage maybe a combat, but just the consequences of this repetitive behavior. And so I would say that, suspicious of the smile that End made toward Miss Bess, Siegfried asked him to grab the other witch, then vouching to protect her from this character, this gloomy character, and accompany them on the journey, like totally not aware of what would enclose to both of them. And so that's how the story kind of began. For Siegfried, he's someone who used to be a knight, who used to be part of the Seals army, and he was a little bit naive but full of hope. He entered the army at the age of 15, doing like small tasks, prepare for the night and all, and he like at a major age had the opportunity, though I wouldn't say that's really cheerful to say, to participate in his own first war, which is called the Great War. So I might change this word because Great War is a word that a lot of people do use for their wars, so maybe I'll change that out, but let's keep the name for clearer purpose for now. And so he participated in this war, which was a horrible war where they weren't able to take over and ask for help from the army, who bring help, but that the help in question was more something that would both destroy the enemy with the ally at the same time. And so at the end of this war, everyone was kind of like left for dead, and the ones who managed to escape were actually captured by the enemy clan, which makes him in this situation that he was before the story starts. I'd say his personality of being like naive and full of hope is still there, but with like a high sense of alert and of defiance towards everyone, but also still with his big sense of like justice and wanting to help people. So well, at the same time he's defying, is not stressing Maze with like these shady plans, and who is Aeneas from the other universe. He's also wanna try to protect Maze because he feel like it's what he should do. He kind of gets included in this story like that. At first, since there isn't really lots of members, they would kind of act as the adventurer, trying to like ask for people to like deliver some quest to us. And as for his equipment, he holds 2 swords, and both of those swords are infused with the soul of like a pre-existing person. One of them is the soul of an old man, and the other soul is the one of a woman. The woman is she's honest. She is brutally honest. And the old man is kind of like a grumpy old man. But he cherishes them very much. And both of them, they can give him their intels while combating, like maybe knowing what's behind him. And he also have a relative, a little sister. So this character is Opera. Opera is a little sister of Siegfried, and she entered the army a little bit of time after him. She's really admirative of his brother. She loved him dearly, and she kind of thought of him as a hero, so she wanted to follow his path. When she learned about what happened during the Great War, she suffered dearly because she thought of him as dead. It's been a full year, and she, from them, really climbed those rank and became like really big in the army, but also really closed. Like she would be too focused on training and on getting better and surpassing the strength of her brother to actually win over the enemy, and she didn't knew that it was actually their own army who precede the deaths of their companions. She thinks that it's the enemy who like killed them all, so that the enemy, the Aeneas, are the culprits. So she has this deep hatred toward them while still not being aware that he's alive. She's also part of the guild. I don't know where and in which circumstance she will be recruited. I think that during the story, maybe like soon-ish, Siegfried at some point will wanna reach his family. Now that he's able to escape and that he has processed this weird situation of the guild happening, he wants to go back to his family, see if they're safe, and tell that he is still alive. She have in her hair, in her ponytail, a sword, and that's actually the sword that she's using to fight. She's dual swording with a sword and a scythe in the early processing of her character design, though I don't know yet if she'll still keep this, because the idea of both the sister and the brother having to dual sword but while still having some different mechanic to the combat skill could be really interesting. Also, a little fun fact that I did, which I really like, is that we could see the root of her hair being slightly grayish blue, which is the same color as Siegfried, so we could think of it as she decided to dye her hair red, but she would actually have the same color as Siegfried originally. And is Aeneas, so she's a doppelganger, and she kind of has this personality of I'm bored until something unexpected happened, but otherwise I just don't want to do nothing, because what's the point if it's not fun? So it's kind of in this dynamic that she decided to accept the proposition, and so she's giving a hand to Miss Bess while still like being this observer of what is the situation, what will unravel, and she's kind of like to bully, but in a funny way, Siegfried was still being wary of her. She doesn't really talk much. She's like a woman of a few words. Oh, what else could I say despite that she's really like mommy coded? As for her skill or like combat skills, I wouldn't really know. Apart that she possesses a great physical strength and that she is able to shapeshift to like different human appearance like her species imply. But I don't know whether she would have like knowledge in the magical department or like maybe like other weapons. Chris 8 is actually in another location, a phantasma, but let's think of it as like a hidden location. And she's one of the principality who rule over this world. But there's kind of like shady stuff happening, like hacking, dysfunctionality with her body. She's in a wheelchair because her legs does malfunction, though her wheelchair permits her to elevate herself in the air if she want to. Like she kind of have this little fire propulsor jetpack thingy stuff, so she kind of have good mobility still. And she have a little robots that she would also have created who assist her and whom she is able to fight alongside. And she have gauntlets on her hands which could also like expand and grow bigger, and so she could like fight like the bad girl she is. So Emil is from the universe of Ted, and she kind of like grew this little resistance of the homunculus, and she's like, I'd say imagine Opera having hatred toward the enemy of the Nears, but imagine her as if she's one of the like main guy, like she's ruling over her little clan. So that's kind of Emil, but also with more woman rage, with more brutality and maybe vulgarity. She's at the top of the head of like the resistance of the homunculus, and she's trying to like really fight for the survival of her own species. Plan is a mandragora, and normally mandragora cannot live far away from their own mother tree. They have to kind of like be near it. Though we don't really see mandragora adventuring over the world and all. So for unknown circumstances, Plan is able to. So you can imagine this little child, like, you know, this little, like, you know when you say that you hate child because they cry, they scream, they're like bothering you, they always ask questions, but you have to be patient with them. They kind of have, like, they're haughty and childish, but also really excitable. That's what Plan would be. Because she's exploring the world, she's been born not so long ago for a mandragora species, and she doesn't know anything about the world. And yeah, she just want to be like other. So I think that Plan would be an adventurer, would be one of the people you can recruit. For Cardi, she's like a child from the country world who have lots of big dreams, lots of like love for books, kind of things like that. Love her family, love like the work that her family does. Her mom is a shepherd and her father is an apothecary guy. So she just like learned to about like herbs and how you do some ointment, and it just became like bit by bit her obsession until she just wanted to explore and be a traveling herbalist for herself. And so she decided to travel the world as kind of this little healer, but she's also skeptic of other people, like the total opposite of Siegfried before he went to the war. She's like not trusting anybody, and she doesn't really remove her walls really often. I wouldn't say it's tsundere, but I would think of it strongly. Elnif seems to be a myconid, so a mushroom species, who's like a big coward who often hide in like her little cauldron. She's supposed to be a wandering merchant, but like would be kind of bad at her job in the socializing part of it, though she in like a gigantic bag, or maybe she would stuff it in her cauldron or have like a little mount, like lots of like really cool and interesting artifact. So she could be really good at finding stuff that people would want, but selling them like face to face with the people would be kind of scary for her. So maybe like that could be like something like that she would be helped by the Adventurer Guild, like maybe helping for the social part while she handle them the artifact, and that they could have like a percentage of it. By example, or like handing quests to gather some artifact that she wanna sell. Erde is from the Nears world. It's from the kobold species. It's kind of like a fox looking, and I don't really know much about him. I know that he's been chased away by the Nears itself, who wants to like take over the control of the Tet world, so it's kind of like excluded of his own country, but I don't really know what his personality would be. Grimoire is a human. She's an alchemist. She's actually, well, it's told that she would be the founder of the alchemist like magic. They're like the expert of the alchemy itself. Though she's not that famous. Like it's more like a do tell. And she's traveling with her little companion Encore, who's also appeared to be, well, he appeared to be human, but we don't really know whether he's a human or if it's like a golem in human shape. So they don't really talk about their story much. Thus, the true character would be character who would arrive later in the story, but who would like have heard about the guild and like decide to enter the guild by themselves rather than being recruited. Anfir is a Duhalin, and she's from the noble of the town that is near the guild. So maybe she would represent them or like direct about the guild and the territory around them. Maybe that would be their kind of relation. And as for like her ability, I'd say that she's like working in like enchanting artifacts. She has strong magic ability, as it implies for being a Duhalin. Salette is an elf. Usually elf doesn't really like to like merging themselves with like other human species, though that's not her case, and she's like living among the other humans. She's originally from the Merchant Guild, and she's really like skilled in her domain. She's like a good negotiator, a good trader. She's like also organizing for like the economy, the money, blah blah blah, all of the stuff. She's like, you know, those mature women who would like have strong confidence but also be like bubbly of joy, but in a mature way. That's kind of would be her, but I don't know if she would like be recruited or like a collaboration between the Merchant Guild and the guild itself. Abelet is another elf who's been living in the dark mystical forest where like normally no one would live there. Like there is too many strong corrupted magical energy, and so she kind of absorbed some of it, and so she's like really used to survive in like campsite forest nature. But I don't really know much what I want to do with her. I know that she has some hereditary lore that I want to acquire to her, but how about like meeting the people and how like she ended in this situation, I don't really know. Albate, a big, strong, armor looking guy, like a big knight, like he's really tall, like at least 2 meters tall, and he was really like chivalrous, really heroic, really helping the weak. But he didn't enter the army, he didn't enter any association before like maybe being recruited for Athray. He's just his strange looking guy who have like a really strong, heroic kind of like justice. Daled is from the Cthulhu species, which we can see with his tentacle, and I just don't know, because he used to have a story, but then it got like so missing 10 that I have nothing left. Like I don't even have crumbles to tell about him. It's just there. Rainworth, which is like a giant. She's a blacksmith. She lived like among like other giants and like are often like implied with like blacksmiths, jewelry, confectioning, all of those stuff. And she's not far away from where the Adventurer Guild is, where Unfair would be too. Archiville is also someone who's part of the army, though Siegfried and Archiville hasn't really met before. They weren't in like the same town. Archiville is from like, normally he's just like a commoner, like from a village, but he had like really good fighting perspective, which like a noble noticed and decided to adopt him to be able to enter the army and to enter like the maybe the rank that would be really accepted for commoners. So a lot of people kind of like bad eye him for that, but he doesn't really care, just like is really grateful that he's able to make like this kind of job and being able to like give money for his family, which is kind of like poor. That's also why his armor is like there is not the full part of like the metal plates, and lots of belts kind of like maintain all of them together because it just like bought what it could have. Eri is a moth character. She also used to live in the forest, but not as a kind of like surviving situation, more like a natural habitat situation. And I know that in her lore she would kind of like be in symbiosis with a parasite that would more be in touch with like how she view the world, like how her perception, the dream, the illusion would be, and that would mix what she think or thought with what the perception of reality is, not only from her perspective, but would also kind of come to change the rule of the world, not on a big scale, like at least for the beginning, but yeah, it would kind of like make it her power, like she would be able to shapeshift her surrounding as she would think of them for illusion and dream, but as it's strongly defined by fears, impulsive thoughts, I wouldn't say that she would be able to control it. And since it's not her power but the parasite, I don't know either if that's the goal for the parasite, either that she's able to control it. Alkil is also someone from the army who participated in the Great War alongside Siegfried. Like, they were knowledgeable of each other, but weren't really, like, just the army is big, so even though they knew each other, they weren't really getting into contact that often, but they participated in the war at the same time, and so she was also left for dead and captured by the enemy. And through those traumatic experience, she's a human, but she's kind of like developing some attribute that would only be able for the mimic species, which mimic species is normally only for little creature, little mob, not for a humanoid species. And it's making her able to mimic stuff, inanimate data stuff, so like that could be like simple object, but also more conceptual stuff like imitating the skills of someone, imitating the knowledge, the thoughts. I don't really know how far she could do, and I don't know, because that's something that's appearing kind of like at the start of the story, so she first has to be aware of that and to develop and learn about it and how about the limitation that it is, and since it's from a traumatic experience, she would also like decide whether or not she's okay to have this. Eureka, she's also part of the army. I have lots of people from the army. She's one of the chancellor. While Opera had rank high, she wasn't high enough to be a chancellor yet, but Eureka is one of the chancellor, and you know, like it implies in the army there is kind of like a corrupted part, and she was aware of that, and being a chancellor was kind of her way to like reach to the top to be able to heal it from within, so that's kind of was her goal. As for what she fight with, she's one of like the rare person who's able to use magic without incantation or without magic circle. She can just like emit the magic, and she's also using wires through her arms. She kind of like have a mechanic which makes her able to a really dumb way to say it is like, you know how Attack on Titan like can like do those kind of like Spider-Man thing and stuff with warrior. Well, she would kind of be able to do that with her warrior on her hand. It's from a Sandra species. Zengrim is part of the nearest territory, and she's not the Lamia but the other. But no, I think it's Naga. Is it? Yeah, I think that's it. So it's like the Lamia, but like with multiple pair of arms, like more than one. She have like 4 arms, and she is blind. So she kind of used the end of her tail like a rattlesnake to like emit sounds and maybe like waves. So she have like perception, like bats who kind of like can percept their location with like the wave of the sound. So that kind of would be like this. And also she kind of have like this big spear through her body. Don't ask me how she can survive with this. She just does. Okay, it's like the story magic. Though I would find a reason, but for now it's just the story magic. She's kind of fighting with this. Like it's kind of like her weapon, so she would like move her body alongside with their weapon to fight with it. For Bismuth, she's, well, maybe I won't really say what her species is, so you can know about it during the stream where that would be the story with a spoiler, but I'm trying for this video to be as spoiler free as I can be. But the whole topic of Bismuth is to find out what species she is. She has been born alongside dragons, and she firmly believes that she is one of them. Though at some point during her childhood, they left her out to, I don't know, maybe because they were like this strange or like a dangerous situation, they just had to let her live like with her own wings. But she really wanna find this dragon island once again. She wanna be part back of her community. She have those wings coming out of her arms and on her hair, and she have nice boots with like kind of like a mechanic which make her able to like propulse herself more easily, and so she would have like higher mobility. For the last character, the character I talked about the most. At first, he existed, like the character, no physical appearance. For like just a purpose like that, it just this random guy who appeared out of nowhere and would have amnesia, so he doesn't know about anything and he doesn't seem to like understand what emotion is or like just how human like interacting and etc. And just really curious about this, and so I just want to learn. But then after that, I just wasn't really knowing what to do with him. Like, is he really needed to the plot? So I just removed it. But then I don't know what I did, but it just ended up being like really important for the plot. But I just don't know what. Like, do I have to keep the amnesia and the emotions thing? And so I kind of make him an appearance, and he doesn't look at all like this lost boy confused. He's like really like more daddy looking, because I didn't have any daddy looking guy, so I had to, okay. But so yeah, that's my biggest mystery. That would be all of the character for the Asrin Guild, and as you can notice, it's like really in shambles. I don't really know what their role would be, how they would be recruited, if one is an adventurer or not, and I also really wanna make clearer about the organization of the guild, what she's doing, how she's doing, what we could do with the collaboration and all. I hope it wasn't too confusing. Now you'll be able to know about those characters, and I'll of course make updating video when I have more context about them. For my next video, I think I want to do a video about all the location of the world, which would be clearer because I have like a better perspective of that. And I'll also do another video about the species that is occurring in the world, and then along the time where I will have more information for like a topic to be able to make a video, I'll also do that. I hope you enjoyed this video, and yeah, let me know your thoughts, or maybe your question, or maybe some suggestion that you could say about like the question I had, or maybe some reference for like the guild, for the character which I had a question about, or just something that you think that I could be interested with. On that note, I'll see you in the next video, or maybe sooner with the next stream. Bye bye bye.